Hello everybody, how's it going? It's me, Carl Screezler here, and I hope you're all well, and welcome back to iRacing, where tonight I was racing the Whelen Modifieds in the ANZCAR League, and had possibly one of the greatest races I have ever been in. This was an absolute blinder of a race. Maybe not the best result, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, going through how this race went for myself. So, off the start, getting off very well indeed. Qualified way down in 13th position, struggling a little bit with the speed, but usually qualifying is a weak point. Race pace is where I come in, and tonight that was pretty much the case. So just trying to find a decent line here, and it's very tricky here at New Hampshire. We were racing at New Hampshire, I should probably have said that. Very tricky here because it's such a flat track, but it does have a little bit of banking. It's not like Milwaukee, where it's pretty much completely flat. New Hampshire has Daytona level banking compared to Milwaukee, but it is very, very slight, and you get the seam lines, and what that means is you see in the corner there is little white stripes as you go through, and each of those is a different level of rise, so a different degree, there we go, that's what I was looking for, of track elevation. And when you go across those seam lines, it can really unbalance the car. Now we're in the Whelen Modified, which is a awesome little car. It's the slightly less horsepower version. It's not got the same, it's not got as much horsepower as the SK, but it's got enough power indeed. Although I was rocking back and forth at one stage, shouting, "Give me more power!" because I just felt I was lacking a little bit. Racing super close here tonight as well. Racing in ANZCAR, which is an Australian league, and I live in Australia, so hence racing there. I also do commentary, of course, over on Performance e-streaming, shameless plug away, and also Checkered Flag e-streaming, but tonight I actually got to race. So we're here in 12th position, battling out with Brad Fenley at the moment, trying to make a bit of a move. And the issue is in this car is you can sort of do a slide job, but you're going to lose exit speed. And it's all about momentum in this car. You've got to keep the momentum going, because you really struggle on the exit of the corner if you just slide it too much, get the wheels spinning up, and just don't get on the power enough early. And that's what happens right there. You see the car going round the outside as I just lost that little bit of power getting through the corner. So really tight battle going on here in the back of the pack, and well, the battles continued all night long. So at this stage, just trying to settle into the race. That's my main goal. In the early stages of a race like this, I just want to try and get myself in a position where I'm able to, well, race for one. I just want to be getting towards the end. You know, not trying anything too risky this early. There's no point in trying to win it on the first lap. But you also want to make sure you've got enough confidence as the race goes on, and the track's always going to be evolving, the car's going to be evolving as well, as your tyres get worn. Now, as I was driving this, I chucked the brake balance back to the rear a little bit, so I was running a 62, I think, off the top of my head, brake balance, so 62 to the front, the rest, no, actually it was a 58, sorry, I lie, 58 brake balance ratio, so 58 to the front and the rest to the back, and that just helps rotate the car a little bit. I found just like trail braking a little bit helped, just kick the back end a little bit out, just dabbing the brake as getting into the corner. And you know, that's the thing, is as the race goes on I tend to build up speed because I get more and more confident. So we've had a first caution, and with these cars, tyres are premium, especially on a short track like this, so when a caution comes out after a run, it is well worth coming in for some fresh boots. And doing that here on, what, lap 7 I think it was pretty early on in the actual run, but changing all 4 tyres here. Now, New Hampshire being a 1 mile circuit means that we've got plenty of time to do that on a shorter track, on a half mile or something like that, you don't have time to change all 4 tyres. You can change right sides and that will work for you, so just do right side only, or left side depending on which tyre is being used most, but usually it's the right side tyre that gets an absolute bollocking on these tracks. Fuel was not really an issue, so I didn't have to worry about that too much, but it was tyres absolute premium.
Did you get a jump
rear tyre absolutely getting a workout with me. I was driving it off the right rear
tonight.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't study the rules real good, did I?
And wearing it down quite quickly.
On the green flag,
not super bad, but you do get there. And, I'll talk a bit more about that as we go on. So, pace car conditions here, just getting everything done, and drivers, as you can hear in the background, chatting away.
Backfire, didn't it?
Trying to get an idea of what's going on in the race. So, going to line up here and get ready for the restart. Now, only half a field changed tyres, so up in front of me we've got Riley Curtis and Roger Clark, I think. Riley changed Danny G, Danny G and Riley changed tyres. Everybody else in front pretty much didn't. So, we have got the back of the pack with fresh tyres, the front of the pack with old tyres, and that is going to bring us some very fun racing here. Now you see me dragging the brake a little bit here, trying to get a little bit of temperature in as we're getting ready to go back to green flag conditions. Just want to make sure that when I get into that first corner, the brakes aren't going to lock, the brakes aren't going to snatch, it's going to turn in nicely. Also trying to get a little bit of temperature into the tyres, because it does take a couple of laps just to get the car bedded in. Green flag drops and away we go, back to full throttle. Quick dab of the clutch to shift up. I'll often just give it a quick dab as I go up in the gears just to make it smooth, and now we are side to side racing once more. So battling it out at the back of the pack, and you can see the guys on the older tyres are running away from us at the moment because they've got temperature. So just getting into the corner again, turning in nicely, just giving a little dab, just getting the car nice and stable on the exit. We've got Danny G right in front of us here in the 24 and going 3 wide now. Riley Curtis on the outside, Danny G on the inside, me in the middle, and we're going to try and squeeze our way past Matty Raymond there as well. Got Gary Whelen behind us, and Gary is quick. He got pole position tonight. He's not quite as quick in these cars as he is in some of the others, but he is always a threat. And he's sliding up the inside, as you can see, 3 wide here. Spotter is telling me what's going on, of course, because you can't see much out of this car. Now, looking at my field of view there, it's actually worse than that. It's just because I've got it a little bit compressed because I shrank it down for recording purposes. When I'm running it on my ultra wide, it is much worse. Little tap on the back of Danny G there as he just got a little bit of a worse exit. Lifted off, no major damage there, everything is alright. I think if I recall it was just a 0x tap there, but just lost a bit of momentum there, and that's just broken us up a little bit. You can see Gary has run away with it up in front of us. So trying to get back up there now, although I think the caution flag has been thrown. So we are, yeah, caution was thrown at this stage, so we're back to caution flag racing, and now we can come in for tyres again, or we can just poodle on around and try and get some track position, because, well, the leaders have done 13 laps on those tyres. We've only done a couple of laps. We could be in a good spot here to take advantage and get some track position. Always a big part of oval racing is strategy and thinking ahead.
A bit of that. I don't think you believe me though.
Nobody in front of us comes in for tyres. A couple of people behind do though. So we're not really going to gain any track position here, but we're not going to lose any. And our tyres are now going to be up to temperature on this restart, and we're going to have more rubber on them. So we won't have as much, we'll have a bit more meat on the tyre, so we'll have a little bit more pace, especially in the corners. And that is going to give us an advantage here. So it's all about trying to work out what we do from here. Now, New Hampshire, as I said, it's a tricky track because it's such a flat oval. You can't rely on the banking to help you turn. You have to get the car turned in yourself. and that can
Never had
really
this much
catch you
fun in
out
New
as a
Hampshire,
driver.
I gotta say, the way
Now, I'm
these
sure some
cars
better
are
drivers out there
designed,
will
it's awesome.
tell you better options than me, because I'm still pretty much a novice. I'm not terrible, but I'm not, you know, I'm not exactly the guy you come to when you need some expert advice. I can talk about this kind of thing absolutely perfect. Principle, I know, but when I put it into practice, it doesn't always work out that well. So, right now, just taking a little bit of a moment to breathe as well, as we're pacing up behind the pace car. In this situation, I'm going to take a quick swig of water to my side, which I'm going to do as I'm recording this as well, because talking uses up a lot of, makes your mouth very dry, as well as driving. But it's now thinking what's going to happen. So you try and work out who's around you. So I've got Danny G on the inside, I've got Todd Maxfield behind me, I've got Riley behind me, I've got Gary Whelen in front of me, as well as Micklemore, Dyson, you can see Fenley there. So trying to work out where I want to be. So I'm going to be starting on the high side. I think this is my first restart on the high side of the night. So again, that's going to change how the car is, because I've not really driven up high on New Hampshire in this car. So that's going to change things up a little bit too. So we're getting ready for that start and getting ready for the leader to launch, and away we go. A little bit of a slow start there. You see Whelen gets a bit of a jump, gets up to the back of Norman Clark, I think it was, and just has to slow down, and that gives me the opportunity to go up high around the outside. Now, being that I've not driven on the outside tonight, I'm not sure how the car's going to handle, so just take it a little bit easy there. Don't push as hard as I possibly could. Jump down the inside of Whelen now, because that's where I'm comfortable. Get down onto the inside line, keep it low, try and keep it on the inside seam line, side by side with Whelen now, and just relying on my spotter to let me know where he is. When you're driving this car and using the correct field of view, basically you can't see anything out the right hand side. All you can see sort of to the front and the right hand side is that big air filter, so you are relying on your spotter a lot of the time in this thing. Up in front we've got Micklemore, on the side is Whelen at the moment, and Norman Clark on the high side I think it was. So we are racing hard. We go 3 wide for a moment as Clark just gets a little bit squirrely on the exit, and Gary Whelan's just gotten away from us at the moment. So just getting the car pitched in once more, just giving the brake a little dab as we come in, just to help rotate the car, and that's what we want. We don't need the brake necessarily for stopping, we just need it for the rotation of the car in this circumstance. You know, we're slowing down a little bit, but as you can see by the speeds, you're not slowing down that much through the corners here. You're mainly using that brake for rotation. Now we've got Whelen on the inside of us now, so we're going to be stuck up a little bit higher here. And again, we're just going to want to try and pinch down if we can. Back end steps out a little correction there. Just feeding the throttle to keep the tail happy. And that's something you've got to do in this car. You've just got to keep that tail happy. It's not too bad, but it is easy to loop it here. As we said, like if you start getting across the seams, the car gets very, very, very tricky to drive, and you will have the back end stepping out on you. Right up behind Micklemore now, going down the inside, trying to make the run here on the 31. It's holding a very good line at the moment. We get a nice exit here, and we are side by side. Got Fenley up in front of us, and they're going 3 wide as well, coming into the corner, and that's just enough to make me lift a little bit. The car on the inside was just going a little bit slow, and rather than getting really bottled up behind it, I just gave a little bit of a lift just to lose a bit. A little bit of contact there as well. We all spread out, we keep it going forwards though. We've got Dyson up on the high line, Micklemore there, JCW there on the low line. Now Joshua Carroll-Walden in the 35 on the low line, and we are going to try and sliver through. So we're going to pitch it into the middle here, going 3 wide at New Hampshire. There's a bit of a death sentence in most cars, but in this you can make it work. We pinch down with JCW, try to make his line as tight as possible so he loses speed on the exit, which he does, and we get the place ahead of him. Riley Curtis now boxed up behind us with Brad Fenley there. Try and pitch it down the inside of Micklemore. We get caught tight now. We're going to lose a lot of speed on the exit here, and that's going to slow us down. We did the trick to JCW, and now Micklemore's done it to us, and we get caught with that one. And that's put us in a position where Carroll-Walden can make a move on us now. free wide once more. Riley Curtis and Joshua Carroll-Walden to the sides of us. Just managed to pitch it through, and it is now side by side racing as we roll into lap 23. And it's times like this where you've really got to rely on this spotter telling you there's a car high, car low, and really want to make sure you're not going to be bumping wheels too much. You can afford a little bit of a scrape here and there, but you're trying not to cause any damage. And you can see throttle pedal at the moment, we're a little bit more trepidatious as we're a little bit lower. We can't put too much throttle on because the car will over rotate, so we're just getting it through those corners. And the other thing as well is we don't want it to wash up. Now if we didn't have a car on our outside, we can be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more greedy on that throttle pedal. But when you've got a car above you, if you're too greedy on that throttle pedal, you'll wash up and go into them effectively and cause a big crash. So we're now following Micklemore, and we're going to try and slide it up the inside of Dyson. Doesn't quite get there. And right now, those fresh tyres are really helping me with a little bit of extra grip. You can see having to defend and fight as well here, and that's one of the trickier things to do in this circumstance, is we're both battling and defending. A little bit of a check up there as Micklemore just gets a little bit tight on the exit, checks us up behind, but we get back to the racing once more. Pitching it into the corner, running a slightly higher line now, and trying to get a better exit. And right now I'm trying to think, how do I get past these two cars, because they're basically blocking the road at the moment. Now we can go 3 wide here, it is possible. It's possible to go 4 wide as well, but you can lose a lot of speed doing that. I want to try and get past here, and it's not going to be an easy battle, and might not even be able to do it, but we'll see how we go. Down the inside, trying to take a slightly tighter line, because having those fresher tyres means it should be able to take a slightly more aggressive line and should have some grip, but doing that is just costing me exit speed, and you can see that's putting me vulnerable to Whelen behind me up on the high line, that green car just above me. Micklemore just gets a little bit leery in the corner again. We get a bit of a check up. This could be the opportunity, but I've got a car going down my inside now, and I have Riley Curtis jumping down the inside here. He takes the opportunity to slide down the inside this time, and that just took away a chance, because I was thinking the same thing on Micklemore, but having that car on the inside just stopped me from jumping down when I was going to. So again, getting back into it, and this battle is absolutely on. Super intense stuff, very close to contact there with Micklemore. We absolutely are racing wheel to wheel at the moment. Whelen getting a good run on the high side now as well, and you can see all these drivers behind me as well as the two in front. We're in a bit of a bottleneck. Get a big slide going through the corner that time and just save it, but it was a big Larry moment there, and all bit of contact with Maxfield as well. Car, when you slide it like that, one of the problems is you're going to get heat in the rear tyres. When you do that, the car's going to get more and more Larry as you go on, and the more heat you get in the rear, the less stable it is. So we need to sort of almost reset a little bit here, but you're sort of not thinking that in this stage. Ooh, GCW just gets a big slide on there and gets contact with Maxfield, and that slows those two down and gives me a monster run here. And I'm going to try and take advantage of it, get down the inside of Maxfield once again on the inside line, getting a big run now, and I should be able to just slide it up. Can't quite slide it in front of him, but I've got that position back. Meanwhile, you can see up in front of us, Riley Curtis doing a good job getting underneath Micklemore, and he's actually made it work there. Got himself ahead. Very nicely done. Now we are battling with Maxfield behind us, getting very close to contact as well once again. You don't notice this when you're driving, but you realise when you're outside the car just how close you come to disaster. Whelen just gets below the yellow line there, and that sends him sideways, gives us a run on him, get in front of Whelen, and now we are up into 7th position, I think it is, and we are fighting, but gets a little bit Larry there. We get sideways, the car is snapping from us, and the back end is really bad, and we make contact with Whelen unfortunately, and just give him a little bit of damage. So just apologising over the radio, and the car now is feeling really rough. The rear tyres, I think, have well, I think they got a little bit hot, and I think the right rear has overheated a little bit. trying to battle out with Danny G now, trying to stay ahead of him, but as you can see, rear tyres have got hot and we end up binning it, and that will bring out the caution flag, unfortunately. Although you wouldn't imagine it would, but yeah, it brought out the caution flag there, and must admit I was a little bit happy to see that caution flag, because that racing was absolutely epic stuff. Really, really cool racing there, and it just absolutely, you know, stuff like that is why we drive in iRacing, because we love to race. You know, winning races is great, but the whole thing is you want to have battles, and when you have battles like that, it is just epic. Like, it makes you feel so very, very happy. And everybody in the field tonight was just saying how much fun they had. They didn't care where they finished. Most drivers were saying they actually did not even notice where they finished, because the battles were so good. And these Whelen modified cars, they just work so well on a track like this. We've run a couple of smaller tracks like Five Flags and I think Dover, but tonight it just all absolutely paid off. So we're going to come into the lane, we are going to change our tyres here. My right rear had dropped down to about 80% after that absolutely awesome fight through the field, and my body was very much in, well, I need to stop sometime soon mode, because I am shaking. One of the joys of being so very broken. So into the pits we come. A caution pit stop. You're going to be a little bit less aggressive. You can take a little bit more time. You don't have to be quite as on it, but you still need to hit your marks. And that's always a tricky thing to do in a NASCAR series, because it's very easy to overshoot your box. It's very easy to make a mistake in the lane, and we get away and have a bit of a race there with Roger Clark. We just had that momentum at the start, and we may have gotten over the limit just a tiny bit, but then backed it off and we got away with that somehow. So again, there's these little things you can do to sort of get yourself up a position, or get yourself in a good spot for a race in pit stops, as well as in the racing itself on the oval. So we are back under pace car conditions, and now we've got fresh tyres, and we've got to try and work out what we need to do now for the rest of the race. So everybody else is on fresh tyres as well, so any advantage we had in that first stint is gone. So it's all about racing now, and everybody is on equal footing, and that is going to make my day a lot harder. As I said, I'm not the quickest out there. I was about 2/10 off pole, which isn't much, but it's enough around a place like this. 2/10 is a long time on an oval track. So getting ready for the restart once more. We're a bit further down, we're in 11th spot, and we're trying to work out what we need to do for the rest of this race. Just go a little bit too early, just give Todd Maxfield a bit of a bump there, which I very quickly say sorry for. Again, you can get caught out so easily in a situation like that, and that was one of those moments where I just got caught out a little bit, and around goes Micklemore, making contact with Brad Fenley, and that's going to bring the caution flag back out here. So right now I've got some damage on the car, so I could come into the lane and get that damage fixed up. It's not going to make any difference to tyres really, but these are things that you've got to think about when you're driving. And that's not always the easiest decision to make, because sometimes you're going to make the wrong call, or you're going to make the right call. Generally, if you're down the back of the pack like I am, probably best to get repairs done. Although the car felt fine, so it wasn't slowing me down, the damage. So it was one of those sort of situations where I could have got the 20 seconds of repairs done, but it's probably best to stick it out on track for a little bit longer and just keep everything running and keep yourself sharp. So on to the next phase of the race really, and look, we're running down 22 laps to go, so getting close to the end of the race here, and that's where you want to try and get yourself up to a better position. And I was sort of hoping maybe a 10th, like inside the top 10 tonight. That was my main goal as I'm driving, but as I said, at the moment, as I was driving around, it was more so elation from all of that great battling on track. And this is the thing, as in sim racing, it's not always the winning, it's not always the positions that count, it's the fun, and a lot of people forget that. And tonight it was just fun. I mean, I had one of the best races I've ever had, and spoiler warning, it didn't go as well as I wanted it to. The other night I was racing at Daytona, and I'd done a couple of runs at Daytona in the truck and the Xfinity car. Both times I got wrecked out very much the last couple of laps. Both times I was sitting there frustrated. I mean, I think in the Xfinity I quite literally smacked my wheel and screamed out a large swear word because I was so frustrated, because I was having a really good run, and you know, it's a long old race and you want to get a good finish, and when you get taken out on the last couple of laps, you really, just such a horrible feeling, and you don't have that switch off of, oh well, you know, it's alright, I had fun throughout the race, it's okay. Whereas tonight, with a shorter race, I was able to actually, I didn't have that feeling at all. I was just loving the racing tonight and just having such a blast in this car. And that is such an important thing to have, you know. We're taking this race seriously. There's a championship involved, you know, and it's the ANZCAR League. You know, every race is done to simulate a real race. You know, we are going as hard as we can, taking it as seriously as we can. But tonight was just so much fun that I didn't care where I finished. So getting a good run here, taking it 3 wide early, go into the corner, just keep it low. A little close there to Roger Clark, but we are tight on the low line, and he's going to get a better run off the corner there. So we've got Micklemore behind us, and he's going to take it down the inside. Just got that better run off the corner, and we're starting to struggle here a little bit for sure. And this is the time of the race where I start to physically struggle as well, and that's something else that, you know, is really tricky when you're racing with disability, is you do lose a lot of speed as the race goes on. And, you know, halfway through a race I'm going to generally be a lot slower and a little bit more prone to silly moments than I will be in the earlier stages of the race. But saying that, you know, I can still keep on, but it just gets a little bit trickier, and you need to focus a little bit harder, and that's what's happening now. And, you know, my lap times are falling off a little bit. As I said, everybody else has got fresh tyres as well, and that negates my little bit of an advantage from earlier. But we're keeping pace with sort of the front runners at the moment, which is good, up in P11. And we're still having some good racing in front of us too. So we're just trying to work out where we want to be now. 17 laps to go. It is quickly coming to the end, and you know, this is where you need to try and figure out where you want to be for track position. As Foster has a big slide up in front, it just saves the car, but that's backed this pack up to us a little bit, and that's got us right back on the rear as we hit up to 210, 213 kilometers per hour. And this is what I mean about the speed. You know, you get a lot of speed in these cars, and you carry that speed around, and I think the caution flag has come out, so we're dropping again in pace. So 16 laps to go, caution flag is out. We've had a bit of a run on those tyres, and my thought process is fresh tyres, for sure. It's coming in for a fresh set of boots, because that is going to, in my mind, that's going to help us a little bit here. We're going to be struggling for a couple of laps, but we should have a little bit better pace to the end if we don't get too many cautions. So again, you know, it's the thing about sim racing is you're constantly thinking about different plans, and you're your own race strategist. And that's hard when you're driving a car, because you're constantly thinking, you're constantly planning in advance, and you're trying to work out where you want to be, and also what strategy you want to take. And pretty much everybody else stays out, but we have a few cars behind us coming in. So this is a, you know, I would say a valid strategy when you're down the back. Do what the leaders don't. So if the leaders came in, it would probably be worth sticking it out. If the leaders stay out, it's worth coming in and trying something different, because I wasn't really going to get ahead on those older tyres, but there's a chance I could get ahead on these fresher tyres. So we'll see what we can do. But just going back to, you know, disability in racing, you know, I have fibromyalgia, so chronic pain, and it gets very uncomfortable. It's much more comfortable in my sim rig chair than it is on a desk, but it's still not comfortable. My hands will start to hurt, my arms will start to hurt, my knees start to hurt, and you know, longer races, that pain is magnified. It's much worse than it is for a short race, but even a short race takes it out of you. I also have a thing called chronic fatigue syndrome, which goes hand in hand really with fibro, but CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, basically means that you're always fatigued. It doesn't help that I'm going through a massive bout of insomnia at the moment, so you know, I've not slept for weeks, which doesn't help things. But you know, even if I was sleeping, you know, 12 hours a night, I'd wake up and not feel refreshed. So when you're racing, it takes it out of you quicker, and the fatigue levels kick in quicker, and that's something else that slows you down a little bit, and you struggle as the race goes on. That's why I don't worry about endurance racing, because I know I can't physically do it. But slightly shorter oval racing is something that I can manage, and not saying that oval racing is less demanding, because it is still very demanding, but not having to constantly turn left and right at full lock angles, it's a little bit less demanding on your body than you know, racing around the Nordschleife. So you know, it makes it a little bit more bearable. But with the chronic fatigue, is you get so very worn out so very quickly, and as you're racing along, it really does creep in very quickly, and you know, you've got to be cognitive of your abilities. You've got to know your limits, and you've got to know when you're getting to a point where you're struggling. So you know, often I will pull a car in if I'm really struggling, and you know, that's something I absolutely do. At this stage in this race, I was getting towards that point, that battling in the early stages of this race, as much as I loved it, and I'm still hyped up on it. We're talking a good 3 or 4 hours after the race here, but it absolutely drained me, and I was just focusing on the end here, but I still wanted a top 10 finish. So pace car about to pull in, getting ready for this restart. We've got fresh tyres, so we just got to be careful in the early laps, just get those tyres up to temperature, and we could well find ourselves climbing up the order here, jumping up into second gear. These cars only have 2 gears, mind you, that's why they're a little bit sluggish, long ratios of course, but we're getting up to speed, right behind Matty Ray here, and we've got a whole heap of cars on fresh tyres behind us. So we're going to be stuck up high, get the car in, brake, just get a feel for it. Car's a little bit wobbly, and you can see by that massive opposite lock moment, we get a big tank slapper on, save the car. Tyres are not up to temperature yet, so really got to be careful right now, because the tyres are going to be not as grippy as I need them to be. So we're going to try and get back down low. That's a place I feel comfortable at. Now we've got to pound around and try and get those lap times in. Sitting in here, watching those guys up front, trying to work out where is going to be a good option to attack, and we are doing that right now, and we are going to see what we can do in this fight to the finish. So sitting in 12th at the moment, and as you can see, we're just a bit off the pace, but that should come back to us. And this is what I'm thinking right now, is we should have the pace come back to us in the final couple of laps. Should be able to close this gap and should be able to get past some of these cars. But catching is one thing, passing is another. Micklemore gets a huge tank slapper up in front of us, and that causes me just to lift momentarily. And this is that thing about fatigue that I was talking about.
Right,
I didn't need to lift there, but I just saw an incident happening in front of me, just lifted off a tiny bit, and that's giving Noddy Tompkins the opportunity to attack me and get down the inside of me. And I think if I was earlier in the race, I probably would have attacked that more. I wouldn't have quite, wouldn't have been so pessimistic about the cars sort of sliding in front of me. So we've now got to try and work our way back up through the field, see what we can do here. Sitting down in 13th position at the moment, up high as well, caught up high by Noddy Tompkins. But we're going to be able to sweep low here. We should get a better exit, which we do. Taking it 3 wide down the middle there. Josh Micklemore drops down to defend. He cuts my nose off. And I'm going to try and get down the inside of him. Can't quite make it work this time round. Going to see if we can keep it there. We start just getting very close there. We get close to Brad Venley. Now we're going to go for the attack on Micklemore. See if we can get that move down the inside. Chops it down again. Defends really well there. And we are unable to make that move just as we need it. And this is where I think fatigue really kicks in. Me and Brad Venley make contact and my race is run. So we've looked back at it and me and Brad both moved.
I'm not sure you gave me any
we sort of,
there,
I thought it was
Carl.
all on me first of all.
That's
And
on
of
me,
course
Brad.
very down
Sorry
on
about that.
myself. But we've looked back at it a little bit and Brad moved down a little bit, I moved up
Got
a
the
little bit.
elbows
It's one of
out
those
right now.
racing incidents. And just, you know, I'm disappointed with that because, again, I think
Sorry about
if
that,
I
Josh.
was a little bit earlier in the race, if I was a bit fresher, then that wouldn't have necessarily
okay.
happened.
All good.
But I so much loved this
Lovely
race. It was so much fun. As I said, this is
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
the
brother.
best race I've ever had on iRacing.
Yeah,
Absolutely
lucky I
epic
didn't
stuff.
get into you.
Everybody was racing hard. Everybody was racing fair as well. And everybody was racing clean. And that's something you don't always get. You don't always see in iRacing, unfortunately. It's very tricky to have that happening. And most often on oval tracks, it's because of netcode. But when you're racing on the same servers, in the same countries, it does help reduce netcode a bit. And luckily we didn't have any major issues tonight. So, that's my race done, unfortunately. And as I said, best race I've ever had is probably one of the worst finishes I've ever had. I finished plumb last in this one. Plumb last in the pit lane with, you know, a black flag next to my name, damage, race over, you know, absolute disastrous. But I had so much fun in this race that it didn't bother me. I was just so happy about the racing and so happy about everybody involved and all the great racing we had, all the fun stuff we had, and just the amount of, well, just the amount of great clean racing we had throughout this one, and it really, really helped boost my confidence. Now you'll notice a little Neuro Power logo up on the top left hand side there, and those PNG birds are, that's hilarious. I've never noticed them before. Sorry. Where did those PNG birds come from? They look like they were from Birdemic. Jesus, get me a coat hanger quickly. Oh my word, that was, yeah. Never seen them before in iRacing. They are impressive. Back to Neuropower. So Neuropower is an Australian non-profit charity organisation to help look after people and help support people going through a very tough time. People with disability, help them actually achieve more of their goals, help them actually do things like getting out to racing, like doing things they want to do. absolute worthy cause, and big supporter of ANZCAR, and I know one of the people who are involved in it as well. Absolutely lovely bloke, so really worthy cause, and hope to spread a little bit of their word around as well. But yeah, the PNG birds have absolutely thrown me for a loop. So this is just the final bit of the race, really. As I said, I'm out of it. We're going to get a green-white checker here for the end. But that race was so much fun. I wish I had a good points haul from it. I wish I had a good finish from it. But as I said, I didn't care at the end. I was so happy with the way it ran, with the racing I had in it, with the excitement levels, the adrenaline kicking in, the joy of the race, that the bad finishing position didn't really affect how much I loved this race. It was just such a fun evening, and then I got to witness this last little run, and I apologise, I clicked on the pace car, so so I will fix that in just a moment. And when I noticed it, luckily I did notice that. So once we find the leaders again up the front, and some really good racing through the pack as well. And look, we had a green white checker here just for the extension of the race, just so we could finish it under green. And the two A1 cars of Dave Douglas and Riley Curtis absolutely did a fantastic job tonight. They really did well up the front and dominated the race. Really, really good drive by both of them. But yeah, what I was going to say now, but yeah, the race was just so much fun throughout, and yeah, look, absolutely epic stuff. If you want to get some good racing, head to the Whelen Modifieds, because they are such a laugh. They are so good. They're like GT NASCARs. They are just so much grip. They've got so much mechanical grip in them. There's no aero grip really. They are full mechanical grip monsters, and it's a bit like racing your old style open wheels almost. They're like racing an old 1950s, 1960s F1 car sort of thing. You know, that sort of mechanical grip with no real aero. They are just power mechanical grip and fun, and yeah, just absolutely epic stuff. ANZCAR's going to be running these for another couple of weeks, then we're going to be switching, and Monday nights now are going to be our nights where we actually switch to different series. So we're going to be running these at Martinsville next, and then
GT3 NASCAR.
Nashville and places like that, so it should be pretty fun. So look, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you enjoyed my commentary over it as well, because
Yeah, there was some back racing in that middle of our race.
This race was so much fun. I wish it was a better outcome, but I'm also just so chuffed with just everybody in this race. If you're looking at racing in Australia and New Zealand, then as I said, ANZCAR are really good for that. Hopefully we'll see some of you there. If not, have a great time, and just look, head into the Whelens in officials, because they are such a blast. They need to get more people racing, because they are just so much bloody fun. Alright guys, until next time, this is me, Carl, out. Bye bye.